welcome to Security News Desk TV. I'm here with Graeme Gerrard, who's the Deputy Chief Constable of Cheshire and also the ACPO lead on CCTV. Thanks for joining us today, Graeme. Now, I understand you're involved with the rollout of the CCTV system for the Olympics. Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, I mean, there are various projects associated with CCTV on the Olympics. My project is, I suppose, one of the smaller ones, really. It's about identifying where there may be gaps in the coverage and then making sure we've got the capacity to fill those gaps. I mean, when you consider we started with a very high baseline of cameras in the UK anyway, so there weren't that many gaps in terms of coverage that we needed to fill. So that's what we've been doing. My job is a sort of project director, senior responsible owner, and just making sure that we've got cameras in the right place, and there was already a lot of cameras to start off with, but also making sure it's all connected up so that the venues are connected up to the control rooms, and the local authority CCTV is connected up to the forward control rooms, and then the major control rooms for whichever force is managing that bit of the Olympics.
Mm-hmm. So are the Olympics going to be well protected then from with CCTV?
Well, absolutely, and right from the outset, I mean, it was touch and go as to whether London won the Olympics, and I guess that if we had not put one single camera on the ground for the Olympics this year, we'd have still had an awful lot more cameras than Paris would have ever managed to put up. So, you know, we mustn't lose sight of the fact that we have a significant coverage in the UK and a really high baseline to start off with. So actually we didn't need to put that many more up, but there are some places and some of the venues that didn't have sufficient coverage, so it's about filling those gaps.
Right. Excellent. As the ACPO lead on CCTV, you've also started some research looking at the use of CCTV in murder investigations across the country.
There has been a gap in research around how effective is CCTV in supporting investigations. I mean, most police officers would say that it's very important to us, that it's always the first thing we turn to when we have a major investigation, or any investigation. Is there CCTV available, and can we gather it? But there hasn't been very much research to actually show that, and whilst we can talk anecdote until the cows come home, the reality is a lot of people would actually like to see the research. So I've just got some support from the ACPO homicide working group to allow me to approach forces, and with the support of the homicide group, try to get some research undertaken around homicide investigations across the country during 2011. From that, we'll be able to determine what percentage of those investigations used CCTV, in what way did they use CCTV, how valuable was it in relation to that homicide investigation. So I think it'll be quite interesting. I'm not sure what the results are going to be like yet. We've only just got approval from the homicide working group, so the surveys will be going out in the next week or so, and then they'll come back again, and we'll need to start to analyse it.
Right. Now, in 2005, you started the process of the National CCTV Strategy by writing to the Home Office, which resulted in the development of the 44 recommendations of the National CCTV Strategy document. 7 years later, are you satisfied with the results that have been achieved so far?
No, not really. I think certainly from my perspective, we needed a strategy. We needed a sense of direction. What was going to happen with CCTV in the UK, and certainly public space CCTV, or were we just going to make it up as we go along and develop in a piecemeal way? And as technology changed, you know, there was a need for us to all change simultaneously and move in the right direction. The Home Office at that stage said, yeah, good idea, and then provided some funding for a small Home Office ACPO team to go out and spend 18 months or so consulting very widely around what a strategy would look like. That culminated in a document, 44 recommendations, and then of course what are you going to do about it? So we were then invited to try to start to implement those 44 recommendations, and again we received Home Office support around a small project team to manage that, because there was an awful lot of work involved in those recommendations, and progress was made. You know, unfortunately we went through that period of time where we were changing Home Secretaries on a regular basis. So each time that happens, you have to wait for the Home Secretary to sort of get their feet under the table, and then you get the political support you need to keep going. And progress was being made. Some people were frustrated it wasn't being made fast enough. I do point out that, you know, my day job is Deputy Chief Constable of Cheshire. I do ACPO CCTV work as a volunteer part-time. So we weren't progressing as much as some people would like, but you know, there was significant progress being made. A number of the recommendations were completed. We then had a change of government. They clearly came in with a different view of life, their different priorities, their priorities around regulation of CCTV, developing a code of practice around CCTV. We're waiting to see what that looks like, and so. To a certain extent, the strategy was parked. The funding for the team that was supporting it went, and so the recommendations aren't being progressed. And we hadn't finished it. And despite what the Home Office are going to do around regulation, I still think there is a need for some form of strategy, so we know in which direction we're all moving. Otherwise, there's still a danger that we will develop in a piecemeal way, that we won't be coordinated, that we won't make the maximum use of CCTV and get an effective sort of system in place, really.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Graeme. We appreciate you talking to us today. That's all from us. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.